Welcome everyone. Today we have an amazing guest that I've looked up to for so long, Ben Glass. Ben Glass, if you haven't heard of him, you've been under a rock if you're a lawyer. He is the owner and founding partner of Ben Glass Law, and he is also the founder of Great Legal Marketing. Is that correct? You're the founder, right?
Absolutely, yeah. 15 years ago now.
Cool. Yeah, and he is the author of some of the most amazing books. I was joking before we started talking. I have all of his books right next to me right now. Author of Renegade Lawyer Marketing, Playing to Win, so many amazing courses, and his new book, which I believe he has right next to him right now, if you want to show it to everyone.
Left Fullback was released on Amazon less than a week ago.
Awesome.
It's an important book for our times.
Yes, yes. So today we're going to be talking about and I couldn't think of anyone who would be better than Ben to talk about, thinking big and creating your own economy as a lawyer. He has so many tried and true principles that regardless of what is going on out there, Ben continues to apply and train the people at Great Legal Marketing to continue to apply these tried and true principles. And I wanted to hear Ben's take on what is thinking big as a lawyer, and how can lawyers create their own economy regardless of what's going on in the news and what's going on out there?
So here we go. I mean, look, we're doing this call in, depending on where you are in the country, week 2 or 3 or 4 of the coronavirus. There's a lot of businesses, are shut down. There's a lot of people that are locked in their house. I'm in Virginia, so we're not on house lockdown. I'm actually in the office today. We have a ton of space here. We actually can still meet clients because we have a huge training center. So we're meeting folks in person if they're comfortable doing that. We're doing a lot of these Zoom calls and telephone calls. Half of my employees are kind of rotating through working at home, and we can talk about that, but that's not easy either, right? So the whole world has stopped. And yet you, Bill, you used a word several times in intro that's so important, and that is the word principles. And a principle really is a rule that just doesn't vary no matter what the conditions are. It's a timeless truth. And I've got a great quote on my whiteboard. I'm going to read it to you. It's from a guy called Harrington Emerson, who was actually an engineer. It's 100 years old. But he says, as to methods, there may be a million or so, but principles are few. The man who grasps principles can successfully set his own methods. The man who tries methods and ignores principles is sure to have trouble. And so let's just kind of start there, because what we're in is a world of where we're having to make decisions. It's a new reality, at least for now. We don't really know what this will look like in 6 or 12 or 18 months. There's all sorts of wild predictions. But I think that there are sort of rules to live by and rules to run a business by that are timeless. I talk about them a lot in the various books. People come to our conferences, and there's a lot of other folks who are really good at this. But it's not so. It's not easy, right? These are tough times, and tough times for a lot of lawyers. But as you and I were talking about before we went live, I mean, man's superpower is his brain, right? And you can choose, Ayn Rand, you can choose to think or not. I like to play in the world that we'll choose to think. And then if we're going to choose to think, we can choose to think negatively or positively or optimistically. And one of our core values here at Ben Glass Law is, we choose positive and optimistic. This thing might kill us all. I don't think it will, but it could kill us all, right? If it does, okay, sorry, that happened. Restart the earth somehow. But we believe, and we're playing as though this is relatively short time. There's going to be we're all coming out of it at the other end. And so how will we get through this? And will we be prepared? Because particularly for lawyers, Bill, if you just think about it, there's going to be all of this pent up demand, right? Because courts are basically closed, if not everywhere, certainly almost everywhere in the country. And there's all these new, novel legal issues that are going to come up. Like, what do we do with statute of limitations? Can we even alter them? Is it constitutional even to alter them? What do we do with contracts that are written that that have, cancellation clauses or not. So there's all sorts of things that the lawyers that I run around with and the small biz owners that I run around with, we can talk about running around with optimistic people. There's all sorts of things that we are choosing to think about and to do the very best that we can. Again, I agree, this isn't easy. If you know someone who's sick, or if you're sick, or you're in a state that's a total shutdown, it's really, really hard. But there's things that we can do because we have the choice to do nothing or the choice to do something, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's some things that we can do to move forward.
So here's a very interesting, and I'm going to have a question that's going to go deeper into thinking positive and optimistic, which I think relates to thinking big. But before we go there, the way that I've been labeling this in my business and with the lawyers I've been talking to is turning obstacles into opportunities. And so I've been thinking, how can I, when there's a lot of fear in the market, right now I'm thinking, how can I help people, right? Because the more fear there is, the more there is an opportunity to help people and, build your email list as a result of helping people, which is always a good thing to do, to help people so that you can continue helping them. So, I put out a book called How Can Lawyers Respond to Coronavirus with Their Marketing? And, 9 days later, I got 750 lawyers downloading that book in 9 days because it really helped them. And so I want to hear your thought on how you're taking, what's going on right now. And I want us all listening to apply this to whatever struggle it is you're going through, because coronavirus will pass eventually. So how are you taking this obstacle and turning it into an opportunity for your firm?
So one of the things is, a principle that we try to live by is the world is looking for leaders, why not you? And by that, I've always said, you don't wait for the Trial Lawyer Association or the National Bar to invite you to come and to do an interview like this or to write something. You assume that leadership position. So look around the country right now, whether you're talking politically, and people could debate that, but let's just talk to lawyers. If you're looking at the National Bar Associations, the state bar associations, even the Trial Lawyer Associations, even your local bar, ask yourself, how many of these things, a Zoom call about positivity and things you could do, have any of those groups initiated in the last 2 weeks? I haven't seen one. I've seen a lot of seminars, Bill, on how do you buy a laptop? How do you connect up? How do you do Zoom? How do you remote into? Okay, well and good, but who out there is doing what you and I are doing right now? There's a handful of us, right? And my argument for lawyers has been, there's a leadership vacuum in your community right now. So first of all, like proactively reaching out to current clients. Our rule, again, a principle at Ben Glass Law is no one should ever call here asking what's going on about their case, right? It should always be us being proactive. Hey, Bill, I just wanted to let you know this is happening. Associated with that is, don't leave it to email. I mean, my email box is now filled with emails with, COVID-19 message from, Marriott or something. I didn't even know they had my email address, right? And so my point here is you got their phone numbers, right? And people are isolated and they're looking for someone to talk to, particularly if you've got disabled or elderly clients. As we have a lot of disabled clients, they're lonely. Reach out to, maybe you can walk them through how to set up a Zoom call, right? Things like that. So proactively reaching out to your current clients. Number two is reassuring that those who are looking for a lawyer right now, that you're in operation. So if you look at a lot of the websites of major corporations, they'll have some sort of a red box at the top, like coronavirus procedures now, our operators are overwhelmed, use digital. So, okay, that's a pretty good idea. Like a little red box on your website that says we're open, we're getting a lot of calls, we're backed up, some of our folks are working from home, You can call us, you can fill out the chat box, you can email us. Here's our personal email addresses. Again, now being proactive and entering the conversation that's running through someone's mind already. The next is, okay, so look around at the other, let's just take the universe of lawyers in your community. I was so surprised, Bill, as some of these Facebook lawyer groups, how many lawyers are not set up for this at all? They literally were asking, like, what kind of laptop should I buy? I kind of feel bad for them, but they're in your community too. So you being the leader and creating some sort of a, we call it a mastermind group, but of a group of thinkers who are going to put ideas on the table. I mean, this is what America, so the real reason America is great is that we've always fostered the principle of throw your ideas on the table. Let's openly and honestly debate them. Let's put things into action. Let's have failure, fix, failure, tweak, failure, success. All right, that's what really has made America great. So my thing is you be that person to your local cohort of lawyers. And you talk about, like, cementing referral relationships. The work that we're doing now in PI and ERISA disability is based upon our marketing from 6 and 12 and 18 months ago. So we're fine. But those lawyers who have more cash-based practices that do require events like arrests and drinking in bars, they're probably going to be struggling. But why not you be the leader? And if you understand marketing, right? Looking around and saying, who in a non-competing practice area in my area could I help? Because I have huge lists, right? I've got a website that I can turn on and get cases in any practice area. We know this because we've done it. But if you're that person in your community, you could be a real resource. And then number 4 would be like just broadening that to the other local small biz community. So just for a small example, right? The Honda dealership last week sent out an email saying, hey, if your car needs service, email us, we'll come get it. We'll pick it up from your work or your home. We'll service it and we'll bring it back and we'll, sanitize it and all that stuff, which I thought was brilliant. So I did it, and I actually bought some extra services because I know those guys and gals who are working on the cars, like they have less work to do. So we're gonna do everything we can. But then I followed up with a handwritten note this morning, like holding them up as heroic and congratulating them for the great idea and for moving the needle forward in the community and for their employees and their families. So, I mean, I have this huge stack of cards that my graphic designer made that it's not the law firm, right? It's our Live Life Big logo. We have envelopes that are to that. And every day, every single day, not even before the crisis, 3, 4, 5 of these go out with, I use real stamps, right? Nope, I'm showing up. Nobody else is getting notes, handwritten notes with real stamps on them. So there's all sorts of things that you can do. Again, the alternative is to do nothing. The alternative is to turn around, fire your whole staff, which we can talk about that. There's issues there. For employment lawyers, man, every 12 hours, the legal rules change, and you can be the one who's explaining both to employees, people who are working for someone else, but also for those of us, especially those who are running businesses that are 20 employees or less. Like, what the heck are the rules this week? Oh my gosh, I need to know that. And so employment lawyers being the ones who can lead discussions. And so, at night, we all have the opportunity to turn on it from 6 o'clock till 10 o'clock. We can watch the news, and the news is all horrible. The news is all apocalyptic. There's no positive. There's nobody who's taking the horse by the collar and doing positive. And you can be that, because you could be running something like this, right? Which I've been doing, you've been doing. Again, you've got hundreds of people listening to you, and you're having an impact. So those are all choices that people can make. And the blessing here is we're in 2020, and so the technology to be able to do this is so minimal, and most people have access to it already.
And it's so fascinating here how you're tying a lot of people listening to this. We have about 170 YouTube videos on legal marketing, and we talk about content marketing, right? It's a surface level term, but what is content marketing? you just defined it in a way I've never heard anyone else define it. It's leadership. It's
Yes.
it's taking someone's hand, holding their hand and saying, listen, we've been through this before. I put some thought into this, and here, this may help you. And I've never heard someone label content marketing as leadership. I think there's probably thoughts going on in the back of some lawyers' minds right now, like, well, is this going to produce immediate cases if I go and be a leader, right? A thought leader. And, I think, I'd be interested to hear your take
Well,
on that. I think,
yeah. I mean, so the right question is, if I do nothing, what happens? And okay, so I just give folks a bunch of ideas. All right. Well, there's other alternatives. So some people are actually increasing spend on digital marketing, on their TV advertising and other broadcast. And I mean, you can do that if you understand your numbers. Of course, the best way to have been prepared for all of this would have been to really be good and understand all your business, 6 months ago or 10 years ago. And so my caution about increasing spend is, if you don't know your numbers, you don't know what it costs to get a lead in a case and all that stuff, then I think it's kind of foolhardy to start with something that might just be a big bet, chips on red, versus what I just said is basically free, except for the live stamps I put on letters, right? So I think we're always, so a negative mindset, a closed mindset would say, I just heard that idea, but I reject it because I don't think it'll get me a case now. An open mindset would say, all right, what are the different choices of where I can go spend my hour or my dollar this week, right? And now let's make the best choice. So we're busy. Again, we're busy because we've got a lot of cases to work on, and the cases that are coming in today are based upon marketing that we've done in the past. This will maybe affect us, 6 months from now, because I look out, there's not that many cars driving, even though it's Northern Virginia, right? There's not that many cars on the road, so accidents will go down. However, I do a lot of work in the ERISA long-term disability world. We think that's going to skyrocket as people make claims because they think they're in danger of losing their jobs. Insurance companies who are paying out for deaths, for health benefits, the big mega insurance companies who also happen to write disability insurance are going to have a tremendous number of claims, and they're going to deny them. So it's going to make work, right? If you're in bankruptcy, you're going to have work. If you're in Social Security disability, you're going to have work. We want to have open architecture, growth-minded thinking, because that's the only way. And someone who says that, one more thing, and I would say, okay, great. Like, what's your idea? Throw your idea on the table. Let's discuss it. Because that's what the entrepreneurs of the world do best, is we try stuff. We fail a lot.
Mm-hmm. So this leads back to, one of the first points you made was the importance of the positive, optimistic mindset. And, when a lot of times I've been criticized personally because I am known by my team and people I surround myself with as the unshakable optimist. But sometimes behind my back, it seems people feel like I'm going to miss something because I'm so optimistic. So where is the balance? Like, when you say thinking positive, like right now at the time of this filming, we're going through coronavirus. So let's double click. Let's go a little deeper into the positive mindset realities. Is it just looking at every potential course of action and outcome for your business and just looking at what the best possible outcome would be, and then shielding yourself from thoughts of the negative? I'm sure that's not your answer, but where is the balance of thinking positive?
Yeah. So first of all, a principle that we live by is ignore the critics. I mean, unless you're in the arena with me doing what I do, then you can criticize it. I'm not going to listen to you. So I will listen to advice. So I'm in a couple mastermind groups with other entrepreneurs who run coaching programs, and we've spent hours on the phone and group calls, kind of like this, throwing ideas around. So I will listen to their advice. So And like you, I am also often accused of being like, too optimistic. Like I think I could take any hire and make them into an A+ hire. I don't think that you can be, again, it's a choice, because the choice is to be average, and average thinking leads to average results. And I don't want to play there. It's perfectly okay to play there if you do that by choice, though, right? And then the other thing is, I think that it kind of goes back to something I think we talked about pre-going live. And so the principle would be you can't defy reality. You have to understand reality. Reality for lawyers would be knowing your numbers, knowing your business, having built a great business where, at Ben Glass Law, our reason for being is not, we help people who've been injured, get all the money they deserve, which is what everybody says. Our reason for being is to build a great business where people can thrive. And when the owners, the team are in a place where it fulfills their financial and emotional security for them and their families, and then the clients will be well served. So the clients are number three. If the owners, the team, and the clients are well served, then the community will be well served. Kind of goes in that order. But here's the marketing principle. You've heard me say, because you've been to our conference, that for most of us in the consumer law area, in the running small practices, our clients are thrust into our world. They weren't thinking about getting hurt, they get hurt. They weren't thinking about their spouse is cheating on them. They weren't thinking about getting arrested or getting stopped for DUI or something like that. So they enter our world not knowing anything about it. And we sometimes forget that. We sometimes presume too much knowledge. And so I've always said you have to look at the entire consumer's journey through their eyes. This is what's happening to us right now. Like, we're now in the world of epidemiology, virology, if that's a word, science. We don't know anything, really. And so we're looking, and there's a ton of information, some good, some bad. And we're trying to figure out, who can I trust? Right? And we're trying to wrap our arms around hard information. So optimism says, I have that information. I may not have it organized, but if I've done it, maybe it's my webmaster, maybe it's the company running my pay-per-click advertising. Somebody's got some data for me. Better if you've managed it, not managed it, but better if you've taken on the job of understanding your business before today. But let's start with reality and understanding our numbers, again, understanding where our cases come from, and all of that. And then we can start to make decisions. Now, another cool thing about being an optimist is I don't have to just listen to lawyers, right? I can talk to you and go, gee, Bill, what are you doing to solidify your relationship with your tribe? Well, I'm running these webinars and podcasts where I'm getting hundreds of people on. Well, that's really cool. How are you doing that? Like being really curious about that is something we can all do. So a positive person is a curious person, and they're willing to ask questions, even when the questions they think, oh, gee, that might sound dumb. Maybe I'm the only one in the room who has this question. And then the positive person, when the answer to the question starts to come, they let it flow. They don't immediately leap to the 103 reasons why this won't work in my business. And so one of the principles that I teach is having an honest look at reality and where you are today, and then dreaming with just a legal pad, dreaming of what perfect would look like for you in 5 years, and 10 years, and 3 years, whatever. And dreaming that without letting that little birdie in your head go, oh, but I don't have enough money, I don't have enough people, I don't have the right people. Like, set those objections aside to at least create the list. Because what I found over and over, and Sammy Chong is my executive coach. I mean, I pay for him a lot of money to coach me and coach my leadership team individually. The more clearly we can articulate for ourselves what perfect would be, the more likely it is we'll see it when we're there. Dan Kennedy calls it like being available for opportunity. So when you get accused in your office of being like way too optimistic, just know that you're playing at when someone says that to you, you're playing at a really high level, right?
Yeah.
And of course, you will listen to the people that you trust and who have data and who can show you with data that your idea is wrong. But most people don't have data. They're giving you intuition, right? And the world was not advanced by people who refuse to, we say step outside the box, right? Well, there's no more box. There's no more box. It's a whole completely different world, right? And so, again, I think this is a long-winded answer, but I think at the end of the day, this is about choosing how to think, choosing who I'm going to run around with. And again, today with Zoom, the smart person that you want to ask questions of doesn't have to be in your town, right? You can talk to anybody. And what I found is that most successful people are happy to talk and to share with people who they think will take action. I hate having my time wasted. But if I believe some young lawyer or old lawyer, whatever, will actually take some of what we talk about and do something with it, then I'm more than available to them.
That's so cool. And as you were talking, I was thinking to myself, for everyone listening, you heard my question to Ben is like, where's the fine line between thinking positively and thinking of worst case scenarios? He didn't bring up any worst case scenario analysis. He brought up the word data, right? Which is the best way, I think, to look at a potential worst case scenario when planning. And what I've found in my company is, before I had a team, we're not nearly the size of Ben Glass Law or the size of staff you have, 12 full-time employees. But I've found I'm really never going to be the worst case scenario guy. And once I hired someone who is that data person and is that person that I expect to filter my ideas through, that is where I was allowed to shamelessly start being that overbearing optimist, because I know that I have 2-3 people on my leadership team that are going to go, wait a sec, you should hear my leadership team meetings. It's me going, and then me going like this and expecting them to get ripped apart. It's almost like I'm testing to see, okay, how's Anthony going to rip this apart? How's Ronnie going to rip this apart? How's Emily going to rip this apart? So one thing you talked about a lot was dreaming what this perfect world will be. And I think that habits are the best way to stay crystal clear on that perfect world. So I want to know what habit you follow. For me personally, I read my major definite purpose statement out loud every morning from Think and Grow Rich, and I write my goals and gratitudes every morning. So what habits do you follow to hardwire and keep pressing on your goals so that they don't kind of float away?
It's a great question. And so, like you, I'm a journaler. I'm a journalist, right? And I have my collection of fountain pens, which I don't know if you can see them, but they say, let's see, it says Ben Glass Visionary on them, because that's really my job in my 2 businesses is a visionary, and each pen is a different color. And I've got a really nice journal. And so I think my number one habit is reading and writing. And the reading is very deliberate. So, for example, right now I'm inside, Yannick Silver has a great book called The Cosmic Journal. Brene Brown has a great book called Daring to Lead. It's a really fantastic book. And we are proponents of the EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System.
Me too.
And so I'm going through How to Be a Great Boss. But so that's one, the kind of reading. But the reading is very deliberate. And it's asking myself, why is this paragraph or section I'm reading this morning, why is that in front of me today? I believe that the universe, God, the spirit, whatever it is for you, does conspire to bring you so many opportunities for growth and learning. And that to simply just read and to not think about, but to ask yourself the question, why is this here today? Like, what is going on in my life that I, just read something out of the Cosmic Journal this morning that will help move this forward. And so that's what I do. And there's a ton of science on the value of handwriting. It's very interesting. You can get these papers pretty easily on the internet, about handwriting versus digital. And this all really, what are we talking about? We're talking about calming your mind and giving yourself some space, right? To just either clear your head completely, or to just think about your life, or to think about your business without getting into the action mode. So I think that's my number one habit. I've been a big reader forever. I read probably 40, 50, 60 books a year, and not every book deserves to get read till the end. I listen to, some on Audible. I don't read anything that's digital. I don't have, I don't know what those devices are that you read books on digital, because I'm a paper guy. But I think that's I'm confident that that's my number one. And if someone recommends a book to me, I'm reading a book called Anam Cara, which is a book of Celtic wisdom. I never would have discovered it, but I have a physical therapist who's into Eckhart Tolle and spirituality and Napoleon. I mean, I can discuss Napoleon Hill with her. So she said, "Oh, you should read this book." And so that's what it is. It's deliberate reading, writing, and carving out thinking time. And everybody has this time, For me, it's early morning. Now with all the kids home, they kind of sleep in. No one's getting up at 5:30 except me. So there is that time to do that. And then every so often, like reading what you wrote, right? Like reading the reminders that you made for yourself.
So here's an interesting question. And there's one thing I want to point out, and it's something I always notice when I talk to successful people, is you're not afraid to learn things that don't directly apply to the right now. So for example, you brought up, reading content outside of law or outside of entrepreneurship, and multidisciplinary thinking, I think, is so important. Charlie Munger, the right-hand man of Warren Buffett, is very big on learning principles from all of the major disciplines and then applying them to your life, so you can then have a mental lattice work framework to apply to your business. One thing, Albert Einstein was very big on was the fact that thinking is the most underused asset of humankind. And, so what is thinking? And what you talked about was reading and writing. And sometimes I feel like people forget that, like, reading and writing, consuming other thoughts to expand your mental framework, and digesting those thoughts and synergizing them and summarizing them in your own way is thinking. I think people feel like, perhaps thinking is sitting down and not documenting anything or not consuming anything. So my question to you is reading and writing the way you think? Is that thinking to you?
Well, that's definitely thinking. Now, you're also thinking your best thoughts come, when you're in the shower or on a run or on a bike ride or something. Why? Well, because there's not a whole lot of other sensory input. So yes, that is deliberate thinking. I would say this too, as a shout out to anyone who's watching this and saying, well, okay, but that's not good for me, or I'm 50 years old and I've never done this before, is that a lot of what I've learned, and I'm 62, I've learned in the last 10 and 15 and 20 years. So you can definitely change the way you view the world, for sure. And you can change the way you evaluate input of information, for sure. I think the thing that's helped me the best with that is being in other people's mastermind groups and not being the smartest one in the room, and hanging with a lot of people who think the way we do and who offer up resources the way you have and I have on this call. And I'll give you one more. If you haven't read it, if you go read Deep Work by Cal Newport, it's all about the value of solitude, of what we're talking about, of thinking. And I think that, especially today when there's all this opportunity for input because we have so many devices, and, I have no email, I have no web browser, I have no Facebook, I have a phone and a text. So my family can text, but even when they do, it doesn't buzz or ding or vibrate. So I've really done a lot of work in the last 2 years in particular on deliberately eliminating from my life those things that are distracting. And guess what? Nobody has died, right? Clients are still served. So that's all about setting up your business in the right way. People think this is impossible. I will tell you that it's not impossible. And that is highly, highly, I think, valuable even to your, to the rest of your physical health is where are you mentally? Are you in hyper reactive, responsive mode all the time? Or are you someone who can kind of, Sammy Chong would describe this as being an observer of your own life? When shit hits the fan. I get 9 kids. We have 8 puppies this week at home because we're fostering puppies. I've got 5 of the kids are home now because college is out and school is out. And so, there's times when it's not pretty, right? But
Yep.
I think the rebound times now for me are a lot shorter from when I was younger and more excitable.
Wow. So there's two big things that I'm very big on. I get no notifications on my phone. Sometimes people get pissed because they'll text me and I won't know.
Ignore the critics.
Yeah, I get 0. There is nothing ever popping up on my phone.
Yeah.
I haven't eliminated my email, internet browser, and the temptation, that comes with that. So I think this is a fascinating point. The first question I asked was, what is thinking positive and what is thinking big, creating your own economy? Well, 2 huge things Ben just brought up. First is eliminating distractions. If you want to think big, if you feel like you're caught up in the rat race as a lawyer, you have to proactively eliminate distractions so that you have time to think. And, I feel like a lot of times lawyers, business owners feel guilty because they feel like since their staff is handling a lot of the day-to-day, I need to be in on it too, because otherwise they're going to think I'm sitting back, crossing my arms, and
he's reading. And he's reading in his office. He's not doing work.
So, but what's very important is being clear. Like you own that you're the visionary. I've done the same thing with the EOS system with our organizational chart. That is my job. Like my job is to have the creative freedom to create new products, new ways to help people, etc. The next point you brought up. So once you've eliminated distractions, then there's the habit of becoming the observer. And I've meditated every day for 5 years. It's like a must for me, 15 minutes at least in the morning. What I focus on is seeing my thoughts objectively for what they are, seeing and observing my sensations. I'm big on Eckhart Tolle. And just not judging them. I used to try to be positive and be optimistic when I meditated, but I realized that caused me more anxiety and, feelings of resistance versus, oh, that's interesting. I'm thinking that thought. Oh, that's interesting. I'm feeling that. And not judging it or not trying to be positive. So tell me about, meditation, or how do you become the observer? Do you have a habit for that?
Well, I think so. First of all, you mentioned Eckhart Tolle. So you're like the 5th person in my world who actually knows who he is. And The Power of Now is a great book. And one of the big points he makes in that is your thoughts about the past are just that. They're neurons running around in your head. The thoughts about the future are just that. They're just neurons running around your head. So we have to play in the present. It's the only thing that we have today. And it's the only thing we have control over. So I would say this, that if you're listening to this type of talk for the first time, you're going to say what I did, which is a bunch of woo-woo stuff. It won't apply to me. I've got clients who need me. I've got family who needs me. All of that stuff. I will only tell you, and you know this, Bill, but so many highly successful people, and no matter how you define success, so I define it as autonomy, right? I mean, there's more money that could be made out there, but I like living a life that allows me to go where I want, do what I want, referee soccer games, foster puppies, all of that stuff. So that's a high value for me. But so many people who are successful have one or more of these practices. So do I get up and meditate per se? Well, I think the answer is yes, because meditation is really training your brain. And that time I spend in the morning, and sometimes I just open the journal and I just start writing. And again, before I learned this, I'm like, well, what the heck would I write about? And you just start. And sometimes it's like, well, here's a little problem I have to solve. let's just make that list. Remember, we talked about making a list without objection. Let's make a list of all the different things that we could do that would help solve the problem or make the problem, a perfect solution for us. So that's my practice. And I can only tell you that, again, this can be done. Like, I have not taken an unplanned inbound phone call in the law practice for probably close to 20 years. You have to make an appointment to talk to me, and everybody's good with that when they know about it, right? And lawyers will say, oh, that's impossible. I think the opposite's impossible. The opposite of, which is responding to everything that this thing does, or every time your phone rings, it would be impossible to get work done. And here's for you. Interesting. You mentioned the guilty feeling. Is that for those of us who are running businesses and running firms and companies, they only have jobs because you are thinking. Without you thinking, they're working at a place that I believe would not be as good a place for them as this place is. So as Ben Glass Law and Great Legal Marketing is, one of the things we tell people is, if you come here, we're going to spoil you. This would be the best place you ever work, because we treat you as adults. We only hire you if we think that you're a great culture fit, right? And we give you ways to think about, how can you be, like, what's success for you, Bill? Is money? Great. How much money do you want to make? Great. Now model that for me. How could it be that I could pay you whatever it is you say, and we're all making money? I need you to work on that too. So the owner doesn't need to know all of the answers. The owner just needs to know how to make great questions and how to lead people. So I think Brene Brown's book, Enduring Leadership, is great. The Be a Great Boss. If you haven't reread that or read it recently, it's a wonderful book which really summarizes and synthesizes the whole entrepreneur operating system philosophy.
That's awesome. So yeah, that is so impressive. You haven't taken an unplanned inbound call for 20 years. I mean, that is such a good sign as to how you're managing your life as a visionary or business owner, because it shows you're being responsive versus reactive.
If you're in deposition, you're not going to walk in and go, hey, Susie's on the phone for you. Like, no. So you set appointments. People can get a hold of me. There's just a process you go through. Yeah.
Yep. Cool. So I've got
a couple more minutes because I got another call coming up here.
Yep. So guys, thank you so much for all of your attention and energy here. I could feel the energy through you guys listening and watching. Ben, where can everyone find out more about Great Legal Marketing and buy your new book?
So I think go to Amazon and search for Play Left Fullback. And I won't tell you the story, but there's a chapter in the book on what that means, play left fullback. It's trending. It's #1 for legal, running your business category this week. And we'd love to get more reviews. And what I say to people, Bill, is if you read that book and you read the second book that I'd written a few years ago called Renegade Lawyer Marketing, if you like the philosophy, if you like what you've heard on this broadcast, if you like what you're hearing and want to know more, then go to greatlegalmarketing.com. Again, the cool thing about my business, I don't sell it. I don't convince you to come and join it. I merely say that we have a group of lawyers who have this abundance philosophy and positive thinking philosophy, and we've been able to translate it into making money and living a life you want to live for lawyers, which is, if you read the 2016 report on lawyer wellness, you'll find that most people are not happy. Play Left Fullback, by the way, is a response to that report. And then, by all means, drop by benglasslaw.com and you could just get a taste for how we market the firm. A lot of what our principle is, look around at what everyone else is doing in your market and just do the opposite, right? You got to have a different message. So those couple of places would be great. And again, I like talking to people. I'm busy, but I'd like talking to people who will actually go out in the world and do stuff. That's what my job is, I think, in the world, is to inspire those who have this interest to go and now do it, and then to inspire someone else and to play it forward, really.
Ben, thank you so much for all you do in the legal community. You are changing people's lives, and I am just a big fan. And thank you, everyone, for listening. This is some next level information. So watch the video again slowly, pause it, take notes. I have pages of notes from just listening to him. So thank you so much, Ben. And make sure you guys subscribe to the S&B Team YouTube channel, and we'll see you in the next video.
You're
Thanks.
doing great stuff. All right, thanks, man.